Morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the TUD regular board meeting of Tuesday, January 24th. And if everyone would rise, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the republic of the nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Start out with the public forum. We would like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This section is for comments on items not listed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. While no action or discussion may be undertaken by the board on topics presented in this section, board members are listening carefully to those comments and appreciate your input. Is there anyone that would like, please step up to the podium? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me on this?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Bev Britz, and I've been a ditch domestic for 35 years. And the ditch where I live is in Columbia, and it's the one that goes from Hattler's Mill all the way to to Mountain Boy Mine Road, which is where I live. So I have 5 points to make in 5 minutes. Okay. First one is, having lived up there so long, my husband and I decided we need to walk the whole ditch. So we walked the ditch from Tuolumne Main Canal up in Old Oak Ranch area, all the way to the backside of the dam at Pinecrest Lake. And we kept doing sections over the last month. And what we want to say about it is it's an engineering marvel if you haven't done it. It's scary in parts up there. Okay, so that's point number one. Number two, recently, well, there's been a lot of plant growth near Hattler's Mill on the ditch. And just recently, somebody came through, a crew, and cleaned it out, thank you, and they saved the leopard lilies. So I wanna, they didn't get rid of the Scotch broom though. Okay, number three, in that area, right by Mountain Boy Mine Road, there's a pipe by the ditch tender's cabin that comes down, and there's a mine there. And it has been deteriorating forever. So I was gonna come to comment on that until I got on your website for the first time. And I noticed that you have a project section, and I looked at it, and you're gonna be working on that pipe. So thank you, because it is leaking, it is funky. Okay. I won't say anything more about that, but we walk up and down the trail next to it, so. Fourth one, the pond up on near Hattler's Mill by the new, well, it's not so new, the new tank up there. It's one of the most beautiful stretches of ditch. And right now the leopard lilies are coming out, and people all over come to that ditch right by the pond. You walk out about 2 miles to the end and back. And what's happening there, and I have pictures if you want to see them, is the Scotch broom is right there near the pond, a whole bunch of it. And it would be a disaster if it crept all along that ditch. It's already come across the ditch near my house, darn it. But if you can do something about that Scotch broom, because that area is so gorgeous, that trail. Okay, and the last one is when you get on that trail by the pond, 1.5 miles from there going east is a bridge. And one of the boards is broken, so it's dangerous. And a lot of people walk across, not a lot, but people walk across that. So I brought it to somebody's attention who works in that area, I forget his name, and he said that it was private. And I checked with somebody else, it's not private. So it's TUD needs to take care of that. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much.
little too high up there for me. Good morning. I'm here to talk about the Ackerson Meadow restoration and to invite you. The Ackerson Meadow Restoration Project was the largest wetland restoration project in Yosemite's history. It is the largest restoration project by fill volume to date in the Sierra Nevadas. Restoring this meadow, part of the Tuolumne River watershed, was a partnership between the Stanislaus National Forest, Yosemite National Park, and American Rivers. The League of Women Voters of the Mother Lode Water Interest Group, together with these partners, invites you to join us on a field trip to view this beautiful meadow. Project partners will present information about the restoration work. We will then hike to the meadow to view the work that has been finished. Please join us on Monday, July the 14th at 9 a.m. More information is available on the flyers that I will give to you, and the contact information is on the back. Thank you. Who do I leave these with? May I trust you to pass these out?
Thank you for that. Okay, is there anyone else from the public? If not, we will close the public comment period. Melissa.
Okay, consent calendar. Item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of June 10th, 2025. Item number 2, resolution to approve appropriations limit for fiscal year 2026.
Okay, is there anyone that would like, any members want to pull the items? No one? Any comments from the public? None, bring it back to the board for action.
I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar. Approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 4-0.
Okay, regular business. Consider awarding the Pedro Y tank replacement project construction contract to Neerich and Sons.
Okay, while Nate's making his way up to present this item, first understand that this item is really from Jennifer Batt, the associate engineer. She's out today, and so she asked Nate to pinch it for her. And between Nate and I, we'll introduce this item and answer any sort of questions you have. But surprise, surprise, another tank, going out to bid, right? Delivering on our promise to take care of all the trouble spots that we have. And the Pedro Y tank is almost a misnomer now. Most people won't know what the Pedro Y is anymore because it's not a Y out there on 49 and Harris Ferry Road, right? It's a T in an intersection now. Up on the hill, as you're at that stoplight, up on the hill, way up there on the right, is what we call the Pedro Y tank, or I'm going to start referring to as the Springfield tank because it serves the Springfield area. It's an important tank. All of the water that goes into the Gibbs area comes through that tank. So all of the Gopher, the Shaw's Flat area, the 126 tank that we just are working on today. So it's a real important tank. And then someday should we ever need to pull water out of Maloney's in an emergency situation and get water to Sonora, we'll go through the Saratoga tank. So it's an important tank, and I'll let Nate take it from here. What's the skinny?
What's the skinny?
Yeah.
Well, again, my name's Nate Gookin. I'm the assistant engineer here, so it's my first time up here. So figured introduce myself to everyone. It's an old bolted tank. It's been there a long time, so the roof's caving in on it. Can't go up there and inspect. Can't dive and clean. It's not safe. So it's time to do a replacement. This is actually a part of, there's a long name here, so I'm going to read it. It's a block grant. It's the Cuesta Heights Water Storage and Distribution Improvements Project. So this has been going on for about 5-6 years, and we finally just got the funding from the state to finish this part of the grant, which is the replacement of this tank. So this tank is grant funded and it'll be a replace a like for like, same size tank, same footprint, just putting a new tank there.
Yeah. What's the volume of the tank? Do you remember?
420,000 gallon.
So it's a good sized tank.
So, about $2 a gallon, that's about what, that's been consistent now for the last couple of years, right? I think.
Yep.
On these tank replacements, so,
Up about $1.50 from 15 years ago.
yeah, I know, yeah, and like everything else, less than that before that.
Yep.
And, Neerich and Sons, I see, is the, winning bidder. Good local company. Good. I see here. It's gonna be. Let's see. I know I read it. It's gonna be bolted?
Yep, bolted tank.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, bolted tank's there right now, so we're just replacing with bolted tank
Yeah.
again.
All right.
It'll have the added features of the exterior rafters.
Yep, it will have the added features, the improvements we've done on our tanks with the external roof rafters, the forced air ventilation, the cathodic protection. So along with the better coatings technology they've been coming out with, so we expect to have a lot longer lifespan than this previous tank had.
100-year tank, hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, should be. Take care of it. Or if a tree doesn't hit it. But I think currently up there, there's no power. We don't have power up. Is part of the
No.
project to get some power there?
Yep, part of the project is to get power up there because there's no power up there right now. So that'll be brought up to the site, so then we'll be able to do cathodic protection at that tank. That's why there's no cathodic protection at the tank right now, because there's no power.
So with no power, how were you guys monitoring that before? Just visual, so it wasn't in the cloud system or anything like that? Okay. But will be now then. Good.
Any further questions? Okay, I do. One is, what are we doing for redundancy?
So with this project, we have to install a PRV down. Actually, we moved it, huh?
Yeah,
So when this tank goes down to be replaced, the PRV is gonna get installed, so everything will come from, still comes from Columbia, but it'll come from the clear wells to the system there. So if something does happen to this tank, we'll still be able to feed the whole entire system.
PRV. What's a PRV?
Pressure reducing valve.
And then, when I read through that, agenda item, what was the, I've never seen a quandary about what the cathodic, yeah, there was 3 different situations there. Why were we scratching our head on that?
the 3 different situations is whether we'll be able to afford to get power up there through PG&E. If we can, we would like to go with impressed current that uses direct AC power. If not, then we're going to go with a battery system, which is the sacrificial anode. So we'll just have to bring a battery up so every often, so that way it has the little bit of power, the 0.1 millivolts it uses.
I'm wondering why for both, monitoring the tank as well as for that, we didn't think about using one of those inline generators like we have up in, Twain Harte.
So we did. And it failed miserably for some reason. We
Really?
had, yeah, we put one in, and I don't know if it put out too much current, but it ended up melting a bunch of stuff, fixed it. And it ended up being a headache, so we stopped using it.
Bummer.
But I mean, so to get around it, we've been borrowing power from Union Hill,
Yes.
right? Borrowing some power from them and paying them a annual fee to borrow some power from. This will, hopefully we can afford to get our own power up there and have a full-on SCADA and control and.
Great, thank you. Any further questions?
One other thing, so there's no pump there, right? Yeah, so it's just SCADA is all you need to power then, right?
And in the forced
Eh,
air.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the
yeah,
forced air
I guess so,
ventilation.
yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta do that too. Okay, yeah. All right, cool.
Any other questions? If not, I'll take it out to the public. Anybody? Any question? See any? Okay, bring it back to the board for action.
I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to execute a construction agreement with Nearest Sons for the Peter White tank replacement project.
I'll
In
second
the
it.
amount of $871,125.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 4-0. Thank you much.
All right, thank you
Thanks, Nate.
guys. We'll see you again.
Good.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay, Melissa, whenever.
Okay, item number 4, update on district operations for May 2025.
Yeah, we're clicking along pretty good here. Abby is going to turn the page with me. Second month in a row, her and I haven't had a chance to rehearse this thing, so she'll keep up. There's only a few things that I want to highlight, and of course Eric and I'll be ready to answer any questions. If Nathan would have stuck around, I had a question for him too, but maybe we can get to it. So this is for the month of May 2025. I am gonna skip on past the raw stuff, although some nice pictures. Going to get to the second page, I think, of the water supply, where we talk about the end of spill. At the time of this writing, it was expected to spill mid to late June. Remember, this is in May, so. And I just heard from Eric Hall this morning that end of spill at Lyons was June 14th. So why is that important? So the snow melt has now melted. It flowed into the rivers. The rivers flowed into the reservoirs, both Strawberry and Lyons. And then they spill until that all disappears, and then it's stored water. So the district, for our agreements, and Eric can answer all the tough questions, but we're going to survive on stored water out of Lyons only until Labor Day. Once Labor Day passes, the weekend passes, we can then begin to bring water down from Strawberry to recover, fill Lyons, and then not fill Lyons, but put more water back into Lyons until the rainy season. We start all over again. That's why the end of spill is important. The sooner it happens, the more days we are on stored water. It's been a long, long time. I could find some wood, but we're down under 1,000 acre feet, 2015 or so. So that's nerve wracking. That's a quarter, less than a quarter of the volume. So that's nerve wracking for us for water quality purposes and just storage, right? So anyway, June 15th is normal. That's why I'd say we're on past normal. Took me a bunch of years, Eric, but I got it finally.
Before you move on, I
Sure.
think that it might be important, especially for the newer board members, to remind them or warn them of the fact that the reason why we bite our fingernails on Pinecrest is because even though it has X number of acre feet of water, total capacity, that it gets down to a certain point where it's not necessarily dead pool, but it's not, the water quality degrades and then becomes very hard for the treatment plants to deal with. So
At Lyons Lake, yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's a higher elevation lake, 4,000 feet, a little more than 4,000 feet, top of brim or so. So it's a higher elevation lake, so the water temperature is cooler, so it doesn't lend itself to algae usually, right? Hot summers, late fall, low water level, the water temperature rises, gets to that algae forming temperature, and then we got a water quality issue in the high country where people have never had before. And it's happened to us a time or two. And those, it's just not fun when you're in Twainhart drinking, water. It smells like it came out of the pond instead of the lake. So treatment technique and chemical costs and all that go right up there. And anyway, so I can go on and on. I forgot, I don't know if I mentioned it, but through a 401 certification, we are required, we, meaning PG&E, it's their reservoir, is required to maintain Strawberry at a certain elevation until Labor Day. What can we give it?
5608.
5,608 feet in elevation. So what's it at today when it's spilling? 13, 14, 16?
5616.
Yeah, so there's we have 8 feet of water that we can use between, no,
No,
too much.
no, that's all in-stream flow waters.
Okay.
That's where that's used at.
Yeah. Just understand there's restrictions to that water. It's our water supply, but there's real restrictions to that water until after Labor Day.
And that's really why we kind of eyeball that Labor Day date, because if Pinecrest is down, we're needing that water from Pinecrest in order to freshen it up, get us back to where we need to be.
Yep.
You have a question?
Yeah, just the way I look at it is, I keep it straight in my little pea brain is, once end of spill happens at Lions, we are a slave to Lions. I mean, that's it. And that's all we have until Labor Day. And just what Don said, the later that spill date, the better off we are. But we're right in the middle this year, so
Yeah.
shouldn't be any problem.
Should be no problem.
And we should be just fine to get through another, 7 weeks? Yeah, so.
Who's in control of calling for water out of Lions today?
We are.
We are, because we're not all year round, right?
No, as soon as we go into what's considered a spill condition, PG&E will start controlling the flows for hydro generation. As soon as end of spill happens, then we're back in control, and it goes off of TUD's water demand.
Yeah. Now that we're talking, and I don't see Melissa glaring at me, so it's okay. It's not by luck. I truly don't feel it's by luck that we're getting by maintaining that water. We've spent a lot of money on improvements to our raw water system, tighten up the system. So all that, and I'm talking well over a few hundred acre feet in total projects. So that water is staying up there. Anyway, a lot of good work.
Director Hollis?
Yeah, I had a couple questions about New Maloney's. They said that there was just a little bit of snow and it came out low. So one of the questions is, what is that? It's 78% instead of 125. And then the other one is, can we draw water from New Maloney's? Or is this just for information?
Yes, we have the pumping facility to pull some water out of Maloney's. We're working on a contract. We're getting closer and closer to a contract. Anyway, we're working on a contract.
So kind of the biggest reason you see it, because how it correlates with our watershed and how the numbers are added, subtracted of what our water year type is like, and then how much supplemental supply we get from PG&E. So anything that flows through Maloney's and it goes through Goodwin Dam, that's how all the numbers come together for us for the year, the water year.
There was a time when on this sheet, the New Maloney's section didn't show up. But in years where it's critically dry, and we may need to pull water out of Maloney's, our pumps are sitting at 840-foot elevation, right? And this is at 1,041. So it's important for us to know where that elevation is.
If it drops below that, we can pump.
Right. Okay. We can go on hours on this, but all right, I'm starting to get it from Melissa. All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the treatment. I was gonna spend a little bit of time on treatment. I kind of glazed through this over the years, but let me just break this down a little bit for you. So what you're looking at, that first half, there's like 2 sections of surface water treatment. Today, there's, 8 surface water treatment plants where we treat water that came from South Fork River, right? One way or another. And so those are the 8 surface water treatment plants we're producing. It looks like our demand is up, Carolyn. Yay, yahoo. That's good for us. And then the lower section is our 8 or so groundwater or well system. Not, they're not all systems, but wells that also add to our total supply. So, you know, I personally look at the turbidity, that what's required, the turbidity, the average treated water turbidity. A standard roughly is about 0.3, and you can see we're well below 0.3. Chlorine residuals are, you know, for TUD, they're, you know, when I say for TUD, those are about normal, but for a lot of water systems, the chlorine residuals on the very far right-hand side, upper section at CL2 to 2025, a little bit higher. I mean, I don't think Jeff runs his chlorine, Dr. Kearns runs his chlorine quite that high. There's reasons why we do. Most of our water system treatment facilities weren't built or constructed to have a chlorine contact time, because when they were constructed, there wasn't such a thing. So essentially, before it's treated, before it's considered potable, the last thing it has to be in, the water has to be in contact with chlorine for an X amount of time before it's considered potable. So rather than just build more extra tanks, we just added more chlorine. So I think our chlorine residual is higher than most, I would say, personally. Back down to the groundwater well. The other thing, you know, we pay attention year in and year out. You're only looking at kind of 2 years snapshot here, but the average static level 2025 compared to last year. So what do I mean by that? So if you can imagine, this is the top of the wellhead, right? And the ground's down there. We're measuring from the top of the wellhead down to where the water is. Static means the pump's not pumping, right? It's just static, right? Oftentimes when the pump turns on, it'll pull down several feet. And they keep track of the pumping level as well. But what's important for me, Eric and I, is to make sure that our static levels are staying put and we don't have a problem. That's what we look at there. All right. All right, turning pages. On, oh yeah, the next page, I think, Abby. Oh, next page. Yeah, yeah. So, you know, this is exciting stuff, right? So, the meters, you know, we've been talking about these auto read meters. We now have a total of 10,816 radio meters. That's up 498 from a month ago. So we're making some progress.
40 since 2 days ago.
Yep, so good stuff. Next page, some pictures of the Mona Village Tank C demolition. This is what I was gonna ask Nate. On our project, it says it's still in, Eric, do you know it's still in, we're not completed with the Mona Village Tank project just yet?
We have, I believe we just have a little bit to do on our end as far as plumbing goes. But the tank is online and doing everything that it needs to do.
So, it's good news. Next page, I think, is construction maintenance crews. This is a lot of bullet points, and you probably you don't need to know every little thing, but it's a snapshot of all the other things that they're doing. You know, we try to keep them busy on new construction projects wherever possible, but we develop a lot of work orders and tags and emergencies and water line breaks that happen, and those all have to be taken care of as well. So this is just kind of a all-encompassing picture of what those guys were responsible to do.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
As I looked through this, I saw this white fur tank demo. Remove cobble rock beneath the old white fur tank, imported dirt to fill the, why did we go through all that?
Personally, I just think it's just neighborly. I didn't ask to do this, but I would have if I would have been out there looking at it. It just looks unsightly, you know, when you leave that way.
Thought we were doing pretty good just getting rid of that ugly old tank.
I agree, but you know, just trying to walk out of there doing the last bit of cleanup. It looks, I don't know if it looks like Mother Earth completely yet, but a couple of years of pine needles and y'all back.
So did they say thank you?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah, a lot of them showed up at the thank. I like it, Ron. Paying attention. Turn the page, Abby. I wanted to highlight this because, you know, we have some engineers on the board and they caught something at the White Fur event that and that's very studious of you. So the Cedar Ridge tank improvement, you know, I thought you might want to pause there and read that, you know, for, when we prep to put up a tank, that's the kind of work we do. We excavate, cut new tank pad, over excavated new tank location, imported backfill with Grizzly Select, don't ask me. And then then compacted and tested, and now it's ready for the tank excavation. So that's why it's going to be as close to a 100-year tank as possible, because it's not going to move. It just isn't. None of the tanks that we inherited are that way.
You know, for those that have never seen a tank constructed or erected, probably ought to take the time. So it's pretty incredible what the crew goes or to prep a site for a tank. It really is.
The Pedro Y tank, which is now renamed, said Nearich has 40 days to construct it. Did I read that right? It's pretty short.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the contract, so. I don't know.
How long does it usually take to put a tank up?
It depends, right? If we're, you know, there's so much that depends, but
I feel like that one should be longer because it's a demo of a tank, you know, and then geotech and then erect a new tank after the concrete ring wall and all that. So
it's remarkable how quick those bolted tanks go up, though.
I'm surprised it's very quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Future Y is not a great example, but you know, we have this thing called these outages, whether it's an emergency outage or a planned outage, main canal outage, and so we're on stored water. So we need to plan these things so they're either not started you know, until after an outage or completed before an outage. So it's this one's not quite, well, yes it is, and it's got mat low, but anyway, it's just one of those things we think about. We just don't go willy-nilly and throw it up any time of the year. We pay attention to the month and how long it's going to take. We talk to everybody, can we get this done before October 15th or not? If it's a not, then we're gonna do it afterwards. And now February something.
Can I just add something, Don, there?
Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to you guys, because replacing tanks is, you know, it's, on one level, it may seem pretty straightforward, but it's like we were talking earlier. What do you do when the tank's down? Because you still got to supply water to that pressure zone. And PRVs are wonderful pieces of equipment to handle that. But still, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of engineering to make sure that that gets done and nobody winds up turning on a spigot and nothing comes out. So good job. Very good job.
Yeah, and no two sites are the same. We're talking right now
Right.
about the Springfield tank, new Springfield tank replacing the Pedro Y tank. It's downstream of the main source. So Columbia clear wells are up here, this Pedro Y tank's here. So that is kind of the redundancy. You got to reduce the pressure to all that. But another project is going to the upper Cedar Ridge tanks where it's the hilltop. There's nothing above it. So this is the redundancy that Director Ring was worried about. How are you gonna, you know, solve this nut someday? So we're gonna keep so we have new tanks, old tanks, we got a new tank, we're gonna keep these in service till this one's constructed. There's room here for another tank, so halfway through the life cycle of this tank, we'll build this tank, we'll have that redundancy. No two site is the same. Gotta think about each and every one of them. Next page. And I wanted to pause here and talk a little bit about this new hydrant installed, not about the hydrant itself, but it occurred to me when I was talking to Director Ringen about a year ago. I was showing him over on Mount Provo where we're installing all these new dry barrel hydrants, and he looked at me inquisitively, "What do you mean dry barrel hydrant?" I thought, oh, so what is a dry barrel hydrant? A dry barrel hydrant is a hydrant that when it's not on, isn't full of water. So it doesn't freeze, to help it prevent it from freezing. So I don't know what color that valve is. If you're looking at the hydrant, you know,
Red.
is that red? So that's the hydrant valve. When that valve is opened up to let water flow into the hydrant, it fills, it does a couple things, but it closes a weep hole. I'll talk about the weep hole in a second. Charges the hydrant, and everybody uses water. Once the hydrant valve is closed and the valve stem on the hydrant is closed, a weep hole opens up. There's a weep hole down at the bottom of the black part of the pipe into that, what we call the drain rock. So that when the valve is closed, the water drains out into a piece of drain rock and is now a dry barrel hydrant. There's a lot going on there. And there's break-off bolts here too. So at the base of the yellow, where the black pipe starts, the duct line pipe, those are breakaway bolts. And inside, you can't see the inside, there's a shearway hydrant stems that also break. So if somebody, a plow truck or a car hits this thing, it's not gonna spew water everywhere like a wet hydrant would. Okay, hydrant valve, dry hydrant valve 101. And that's all we install. We don't have any other, there are wet hydrants in downtown Sonora. But for the most part, that's what we install.
The red valve, they need electrical power for that?
Nope, that's
Or
just a,
just for
No,
water
that's just,
pressure?
so the red one is a resilient wedge gate valve, and that's just, so if something were to happen, if somebody were to hit that hydrant below level and it breaks the pipe, well, then we can go kill the red valve, the resilient wedge, but other than that, it stays on all the time. And the
Okay.
rest of the hydrant, the rest of the stuff's inside the hydrant to open and close it.
Oh, okay.
Director Ringen and Director Kearns, you probably remember a few years ago, we had, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet of snow up in the Cedar Ridge area, and one of the plow trucks, not ours, hit one of our hydrants. In Cedar Ridge, most of these hydrants don't have that hydrant valve, and so they sheared off the hydrant. It broke and just spewed water everywhere. We're on stored water because of all the snow. So we almost ran out of water for that instance. So we installed, make sure we have those valves installed.
Yeah, we had a situation about 10 years ago, high windstorm, 2 o'clock in the morning, one of those mono wind events, you know, comes from the east, north and east, and broke off top of a very tall cedar tree, came down like a missile and broke what it would be the same thing as that blue pipe you got there. Didn't hit the actual hydrant, but hit the feeder line, went right through it. 420,000 gallon tank drained in about 30 minutes. 2 o'clock in the morning. That one, I still have nightmares about that one. So
Have fun.
all different kinds of crazy things can happen there, and that's exactly what that red valve's for. Mhm.
Okay, Abby, I'm going to the wastewater treatment division. Treatment, I spent some time on collections last month, I think. So there's, you know, again, another busy page here, and we're paying attention to all of these things. But, you know, this time of year, the weather isn't much of an impact. So we don't expect the flows either from regional or from Twainhard or from Jamestown to be crazy. And during the wet seasons, we pay attention to those flows. But what we're looking at here, for me, what I'm looking here, a couple things are the septic hauling loads. You know, we're going to creep up to, probably close to 500,000 gallons a month, which is about normal. But when I say normal, that's about 300,000 gallons more than 20 years ago. So we have been seeing an uptick in that. It's probably leveled off now the last 5 years or so.
Isn't that mostly probably because we're the only place anywhere around that takes it, and they're probably pulling it in further away?
I think the three nearest counties bring their water to their septic to us. Yes, and the county's ordinance on must inspect septic tanks. It was a cause of the increase. If we have a fire and there's a fire camp here, there'll be another 100 portable toilets that have to come here. So, yeah.
Question about that, Don.
Yeah.
Why is that we get all those other counties septic haulers? Do the other counties regional water or regional wastewater plants, they don't accept them, or what is it?
They just don't have the facilities.
They don't.
Yeah.
So there is no, regional wastewater plant in Calaveras County like ours, similar to ours.
Correct.
So,
WD is looking at one spot to possibly install one, but they just don't know if they're gonna do it or not.
so what happens? So are you saying then that Angels Camp, San Andreas, they don't, there's no sewer treatment plants for those?
Treatment plants, but not septic receiving
Receiving
facilities. They're
Okay.
not set up to take the
Okay,
septic.
so they were designed for much smaller million gallons per day and they just can't take them, I guess,
They just didn't, it wasn't in the design when it was
wasn't in the
built.
design at all, period.
Equipment,
period.
you gotta have some equipment. It's not raw sewer, like coming, like you flush the toilet. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, I know
It's
it is.
90% trash.
You bet.
10%
Yeah, I get that part of
sewer.
it. But I was just thinking because our old sewer plant was designed almost 60 years ago now. So I'm just curious.
But in 1994, 5, we installed a septic receiving facility at the old plant.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Thank you.
That was
And I
that
think
structure
too
where,
that, when those tanks bring in that is way, way, way stronger. I mean, they struggle, if they get a good dose of it, the treatment people have to really struggle to treat that.
that's right. Our new plant handles it just fine. It was designed in part to take that septic load.
Now, this is off the, subject of, septic, but something that I don't understand, up there in the right-hand corner, why and how, where does the, sewage go, there at Twainhard? How, I mean, that's a partial treatment up there, but how do you drop almost in half, what goes out of that plant when it goes into the interceptor? I thought the treatment happened down at regional.
It's an inaccurate meter read. We're still working on to get the correct meter read there.
Well, that's-
And they're gonna, and they'll work on it. Then their kids will come work on it. Their grandkids will come work on it. Eventually, somebody's gonna get it. They're just never gonna match.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna match. I mean, there is a fair amount of evaporation that goes on between the influent and the effluent. If those numbers are ever reversed, then you come asking me questions. I have been trying to get meters to match since I got here and it's a darn struggle. It's not easy.
Back on the septic receiving, Calaveras and what other 2 counties?
Mariposa County, I think Amador, I don't know if we get much of Amador's, but,
I don't think so, but
you know, and I don't want to go too deep in the woods here, but you know, there's a lot of newer construction resorts built on point of use septic. That's how they were going to handle their waste. And when they fail, and they do, they just come calling to TUD. All right. Last for me, that I wanted to talk about is the elevation. Really, what we really are paying close attention is elevation at Quartz Reservoir. And you can see it's at 53 feet today. It was at 63 feet this time last year. So we're in really, really good shape. I would say that's a relatively normal level and should have a relatively normal reclamation season as far as available water.
Ranchers will be happy.
There'll be water.
They'll be happy that there's water available. Yep, gotcha. Done.
End of my report unless you have some more questions.
Good job, Eric.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment? I see none. There you go, Melissa.
Item number 5, Coach's Corner Mutual Assistant Agreements.
Okay. So we were down at Jamestown JSD last month, I believe, for the Regional Sewer Advisory Committee meeting. And there and a few other places, the topic of mutual assistance agreements, they come up. And again, this is just an opportunity for us to kind of give you a little bit more information on what is this thing. First off, we're going to start with a quote from Mother Teresa. I can do things you cannot, and you can do things I cannot. Together, we can do great things. And that's really us. I mean, that's just us, right? And when I say we, I really mean we, all of us, right? It takes all of us to do all these things. Before these newer mutual assistance agreements, we had some independent emergency agreements with different agencies, which were fine. But emergencies are a pain in the rear end, right? They don't really fit our calendar the way we want them. We can't schedule these emergencies for Jamestown, for Tuolumne, for ourselves. They just come when they come. So let me just read this to you. Tuolumne Utility Districts and other local partners determined that it would be in their mutual best interest to periodically lend each other equipment, supplies, and personnel, and to otherwise cooperate with and assist each other in the event of an emergency or in other situations where one agency has insufficient resources to undertake a necessary public project or activity. A mutual assistance agreement sets forth the terms in which they may provide mutual assistance through the sharing of resources such as requests, scope, personnel, supplies, and equipment costs, liability, indemnity, insurance, etc., to ensure both parties are protected and fully compensated for all costs associated with the assistance provided. Having these agreements in place proactively ensures that assistance can be provided expeditiously. Here's a list of the agreements that we have in place today. Looks like there's 10 of us. We have one with Calaveras County Water District. We have one with Chicken Ranch Rancheria, Groveland Community Services District, Jamestown Sanitary District, Lake Don Pedro, Tuolumne Band of Miwoks, Tuolumne Sanitary District, Tuolumne County, Twin Ark Community Services District, and Utica Water and Power Authority. And we've actually put these to use. There's the following occurrences. We had a situation earlier this year, last year, I guess, late last year, September, where we borrowed a VACCON from Calaveras County Water District for some work that we had planned to do over here. But we have our own vac truck, but this was scheduled. Multiple agencies were going to be doing this work at nights on Highway 49, so it took coordination. And lo and behold, at the eve of this thing, our VACCON goes down. Eric gets on the phone, calls up CCWD, which we already have an agreement with, says, hey, do you have one? And yet, if the answer is yes, can we borrow? If the answer is yes, then that's what happens. Exactly what happens. We were able to complete our project without missing a beat because of this agreement. We also have one, and we use it with JSD. Oh wait, I forgot one. Currently, we're just now finishing up a project over on Lonjaway, where in June of 25, we're borrowing a Calaveras County Water District employee to assist us in flagging. So as you know, we're doing a lot more work in-house, construction. Every time we can do some in-house work, we're saving our ratepayers a lot of money. But one very important part of that can be flagging for safety reasons. And a lot of our staff in operations are certified in flagging, but we're all busy. We have crews everywhere doing their thing. So it's hard to sometimes it's hard to pull in a team of TUD folks to do some flagging, right? Because it pulls them away from the projects they're working on. Sometimes we'll hire, if it's critical, we'll hire out a professional flagging outfit. And 4 or 5 years ago, that was a pretty affordable option for us, considering how much money we were going to save by doing this in-house construction. But over time, those costs have crept up quite a bit. So we wanted to get this project done, and we were just short. And again, Eric just reached out to CCWD and said, "Hey, do you have a person that we can borrow?" So we've been borrowing a guy for a couple of weeks, right, to help us do some flagging over here, and so really works out. We have ongoing work with Jamestown Sanitary District. I mean, over the years, whether emergency or non-emergency work, You know, we've had some storms where they've lost power and needed generation help, and, you know, Eric supplies a generator or blowers or whatever they may need. And then currently, as we've been talking about, we're helping them with a condition assessment program of their collection system. That's what we talked about at the meeting the other day. I guess I can go on and on, but the point here is we have these agreements in place. They're not just sitting there collecting dust. We really work hard to put these to good use. It's much easier for us, you know, if Twain Harte calls us or Jamestown calls us or Tuolumne calls us, hey, we got a real emergency up, we need your help. We're not going to say no. There's a little chance that we're going to say no. So we'll get up there and help. But what we'd prefer is to be able to assist them in a non-emergency situation, helping them understand, like Jamestown, helping them understand how to do a condition assessment so they can make proactive repairs to the system. We help Twain Harte with their flushing program to kind of give them an idea of, you know, all the steps it takes, you know, to do a proper flushing program. So it's just as nice or better to do these proactively than reactively. So pretty happy and proud of the work we've been able to do with these mutual assistance agreements. They're paying off, and they'll continue to pay off for us. So in the picture, there's a really cool picture that's a CCWD truck and the TUD truck parked next to each other. That's the flagger that we're borrowing from Calaveras County.
One drives Ford, the other drives Chevys, huh? Be darned.
Well, we're trying to get them up to speed.
Any questions? Well, I've got a question.
Yeah.
No one else does. First of all, I think you were the one that came up with this idea originally about this mutual assistance agreement, which
Not here for the credit, but
pat you on the back for. I thoroughly support it, and I think it's a incredible program. But I do have one thing that I am concerned about, and that was in the case of the bottom one there, Utica, they ran into a problem with a valve. And I don't know all the circumstances, don't want to know all the circumstances, but just, I hope that this doesn't get to be a situation where TUD gets taken advantage of, where we become the warehouse for those entities that don't want to put that amount of money into just in case situations. They should have a backlog of their own parts and pieces for their system, and I would just hate to see us get used like that, especially if we went and loaned it and then the next day our valve goes out. Now what?
yeah, well, thank you for the concern. And the way I see it, Director Ringen, is that's what I mean. That's what I mean by we're going to answer the call when we can. We have every option to say no. We're not giving away our last valve. We're not giving away the last anything if we have our own needs. We're going to make sure our needs are fully met first. But we do like to we meet with CCWD and Utica some, but pretty regularly. I don't know, about 8 years ago, they came up, they heard about our shop and our warehouse, and they wanted to come over and take a look at that. And so they've modeled their newer facility very much after our facilities. So is that, and yeah, and then on top of that, I think you're working with Damon over at CCWD on having some supplies, mutual. Go talk a little bit about standard specs and details and the equipment that we have and they have.
Yeah, CCW, it's very similar, especially, I'm not gonna say pipe sizes, but, type of pipe, valves, and what we do, service lines, and the brass that we use. But Damon and I are working on how do we kind of coincide that and make it work a little bit better together. And so we've exchanged our
Standard details and
standard
specs.
details and specs. So they were super, super excited to see, because we've just updated ours. So they're going to kind of start mimicking, and we're going to start having the same stuff on the inventory going forward. And then trying to figure out ways to where can they set some stuff that's closer to us? Where can we set some stuff that's closer and just basically have something to fill out if we needed to go get parts or whatnot going forward. So we're still working through that.
That's great. I know years ago, I had brought up the suggestion that I thought that, maybe there should be that all the utilities should get together and there should be one warehouse that had full everything. And then each one would pull from it and each pay for whatever, they took or, and, that fee could keep the thing running. But because then you could buy in quantity and save a lot of money, as well as it was always there. It was always on the shelf, no problems, but they didn't like a lot of my ideas.
But no, it's logistics, right? If you need a corp stop, you don't drive all the way to Tuolumne to get from Angels Camp to get your corp stop. But if all the agencies had the like for like material, and we happen to run out of corp stops, we would make the trip over to CCW to get a corp stop, vice versa.
Okay. Any further question? Yes.
I had a question. So we have mutual assistance agreement with 10 different organizations. Do we have any idea how many of them have mutual assistance agreements between them? Because this sounds like it's kind of new.
It is kind of new, but I strongly feel like CCWD has some with Amador modeled after our agreement.
I feel like Twainhart has a couple there, maybe with GCSD too.
Maybe,
Maybe.
they might, yeah.
Starting now.
Everywhere we go, we try to encourage all these agencies to come up with their mutual assistance agreements. By the way, I see Jesse's on there, and Jesse helped us tremendously developing this assistance agreement to make sure we're protected. But in the event of an emergency, a declared disaster, presidential declared disaster, if you have these mutual assistance agreements in place, and we're requested to go over to CCWD and provide assistance, we'll be totally available for reimbursement through that too.
Yeah, that seems like the major benefit to this is in case of an emergency, everybody's already.
Right.
It is. I was told by Cal Fire after the Eaton fire and those fires down in LA, we were just talking about some stuff and they said that they were struggling down there because they didn't have these going. They said, you guys are ahead of the game because you have this already.
Kudos.
Okay, anyone else? If not, bring it out to the public, which is beginning to dwindle. Okay, if not, then I guess we'll move along because that was for information only. The only thing I'll say is that this report is really lacking. Oh, damn holes. to put the-
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Oh,
Bring that up,
Melissa.
too.
That's me. I will get holes in it and I'll get it to you before you leave. I was rushing. I apologize.
But I will say,
A hard time.
I will say that, what's that guy's name? The Grinch almost made it out again. And Abby said, oh, no, no, no. Grinch is not going, oh, I left it in my office. Darn. So what I'm holding up in my hand, if you can imagine, is our brand new adopted capital improvement plan, 5-year rolling capital improvement plan. It's about 100 and some odd pages long. We're gonna send it out. We said, nope, we'll wait. But if you guys would like a hard copy of that, just let me know and we'll get you a hard copy. It'll be in your box for your reading pleasure.
Not in a rush.
Yeah, not in a rush. I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm a nerd, but it's awesome. It's really awesome.
Okay, Melissa.
Okay, staff reports.
I've been busy, didn't write much down, but what's at the top of my head is that we now have a fully executed contract with Kuwait for the design of our Sierra Pines treatment plant.
Yay.
Yep,
Yay.
that's all I have. Yeah.
Nothing to report.
Oh, come on.
Well, everybody could talk about it, so I'll let you guys go.
We are done with budget season, but we're now ramping up for year end. Our year end closes in 6 days. So after that point, we get super, super, super busy. And then we'll have year end results for you once we're done.
Good morning. Okay, kudos for staff that I wanted to share with you all this morning. First, it was in the ops report, but just to acknowledge a few of our folks who received their advanced certifications. We have Jakin Laxag, who earned his water treatment grade 4 certification. I believe he passed the test a couple months ago. I may have said that, but it is quite the process with experience and qualifications to finish that application process. So it's a high level of treatment cert for Jakin. And then Nate, who was here earlier on the Pedro Y tank, and Jack Morey in construction maintenance both obtained their distribution certifications, grade 2. So congratulations to all of them. And then a few months ago, I did mention that some of our engineers participated in the Tuolumne County and its STEM program. And so in March, Eric Johnson, Jennifer Batt, and Gadiel DiMattei went to Curtis Creek Elementary School and did some cool science demonstrations. And so we got a really nice letter from the STEM coordinator. They changed it to STEAM, so they added an A in there, and I don't have what the A, it doesn't have it on here what the A is for. Does anyone know? Arts, thank you. Okay, so it's now science, technology, engineering, arts, and math? Okay. Thank you very much, Elena. Anyway, really nice letter from the county superintendents of schools. So just appreciating their time taking out to show the kids some cool demonstrations on how water works, how hydraulics work, and some engineering. And then out in the field, a customer who lives on Midland Drive near the ditch there wanted to just thank our crews. They cleaned out underneath the flume there, lots of blackberries and things that were kind of overgrowing, out of control based on some leaks from the flume there. And she was just super appreciative and sent a really nice message into the office. And so I just wanted to acknowledge Kurt Byers, our raw water superintendent, and then his crews that do all that work out there. And, you know, we talked about the investments in the raw water system, and it just takes a lot of time and energy and resources to keep that program going really well and getting the water where it needs to be. And so we don't have problems like that. And those are fire dangers as well. So just clearing out, and the residents really appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Okay. Guess we're to
Directors, communication and report.
guess we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. We went to the Mountain Counties Water Resources thing up at Black Oak, and that Director Ringen kind of set up, got them started on, and it was really great. People from all over, kind of like the mutual assistance group, and we all went up there and learned a lot. I got help from Director Kearns to get an invitation to go to Tuolumne County Business Council. All about biomass. They had the 4 biomass providers presenting down there, as well as Sierra Pacific Industries. Learned a lot there. There's a lot of biomass up there for everybody. There are challenges, financial challenges to getting it out. So that was a lot to learn. Went also, same day I went up to Groveland Community Service District, where they're doing their rate adjustment meeting. And that was a well done meeting. They really worked at that. They had big storyboards, and one of them had the CIP board for them. They had a packed house, and everybody really went away understanding why they have to adjust the rates. The CIP board they delayed one of their rate increases by 3 years until they could get their CIP project list in place. They did not have that before that. So they're doing what we do, and that CIP, for those of us in this business, is very important because it takes the humps out as to what's going on. So, came back with a lot of information there. Their board was unanimous in supporting it and telling people why we need to do it. And I think everybody came away with an understanding of, where they were and why they had to do what they were doing. Then the last couple of things, we had a water and a wastewater. I only made it for half the water meeting, but, and a wastewater, committee meeting. And what we're doing in both of those, similar, is to go after ways to consolidate some things that are out there and make them a little more together. And just address things that haven't been addressed in the past, never have been, but now we're gonna make those better, having to do with some trailer parks. That's all I got.
John?
Pretty much a rerun of what Director Hollis just said. I too attended the Mountain County's meeting up at Black Oak Casino. Good job, Ron, getting that set up. That was a very good meeting. I also viewed the Water Committee and the Wastewater Committee meetings via YouTube. And yeah, I shouldn't go into detail on that anyway, but those were interesting meetings there. And that's all I have.
And I think I duplicated a lot because I also attended the Mountain County's wastewater. And then I was in the water committee, and I'm not saying much about anything. My lips are sealed.
Okay, I guess it's to me. Been an extremely busy couple of months, but this last couple of weeks has really been something. So I'll get through this really quick. 6/11, attended and participated in the Citizens Planning Academy, which happened to coincide and be part of, or lead into, if you want to say that way, the Tuolumne County Planning Commission. And that was really interesting. They passed two agenda items that had to do with putting more dwellings, whatever type, on smaller, on pieces of property. And one of them was, one agenda item was 1.5 acres of land that they felt would accommodate, I don't know how, 14 to 16 dwellings. I think we're headed for trouble if this gets through county. If everybody looked at pictures from the Paradise Fire, that fire, of course, started in the forest area and then moved into Paradise. But where I'm going with this is that the pictures after the fire, if you really looked at them, the trees in the housing area especially, but throughout the whole town for the most part, the trees were still standing and green for the most part. The lawns were still green, but the houses and buildings were gone. So what I'm talking about here is standing fuel becomes the buildings. So if you cram more buildings closer together, especially using the materials that people are using today, I think we're creating our own problem. So I don't know. We'll see where that all goes. Granted, we need housing badly, but like I've always said, I'm for development, and I'm only for smart development. And that to me doesn't sound too smart, but I'm not on the planning commission. 6/12, attended and participated in the Mountain County Water Resource and TUD program out there at Black Oak, and I want to say that we really should give a big thanks to the tribe. I think they bent over backwards to accommodate us and make sure that we had everything we needed to have a program that ran really smooth, up to and including, I don't know whether anybody knew, but the Mountain Counties Board met the next morning in their boardroom, and it turned out really nice. They just seemed to take care of everything, so big thanks as far as I'm concerned to the tribe. 613, just said the Mountain Counties Board meeting. 616, meeting with GM and our TUD council on a water issue. 617, meeting with GM and staff on possible TUD programs. 617 was a TUD Water Committee meeting, which you've already heard some about from the other board members. 617, attend TUD Sewer Committee meeting, which is you've already heard about. That was the same morning. 618, attend and participate in the East Stand IRWM meeting. That group is just seems to be working on more and more positive things. So we've got a field trip coming up, which should be interesting in the experimental forest, and we had quite a discussion on stormwater capture and use and a bunch of other things. It's all positive. And then finally 620, last Friday I met with Senator Alvarado Gil's staff members concerning various water issues for the county and that sort of thing. So that's it for me. Anybody with anything further? Any questions or anything? Anybody out there in the public? No? Well, then if that's the way everybody wants to be about it, we'll adjourn.
Well,